Let's take a minute to talk about why we're here. Big picture, it's this. There's a really small group of credit bureaus in America, and by really small, I mean 3. And if you're an American who buys a home or a car, you typically have to be cleared by one of those 3. And even if you don't have a relationship with one of the 3, if you're a consumer who didn't choose this, so you think about the OPM hack, people were at least choosing to apply for a security clearance or to work for the federal government. We have people here who didn't have any relationship with you and didn't choose to engage with you. If you get a credit card from one of the countless offers that Americans get every day in their mailbox, from department stores or gas stations or airlines, it's not uncommon for one of the 3 credit bureaus to then obtain your information. So what happens when something goes wrong? What happens when one of you big 3 is hacked? What happens if you're one of the 145 million Americans who are, in this case, had their information stolen? What happens if 5 years from now an American has their identity information stolen? What happens when there's a reasonable suspicion that folks at your organization may have engaged in insider trading? There's a lot of anxiety that Americans feel, and there are Americans who don't have the benefit of powerful attorneys and lobbyists. And for them, this hearing is one of their only shots at getting a full account of what went wrong, who's to blame, and what's going to happen about it in the future. So I'd like to discuss this question about those who were impacted by the breach and how long you think Equifax's exposure or responsibility lasts. If you're an American, if you're one of those 145 million, you don't have the ability to change your name, your mother's maiden name, your birth date, your social security number, and your organization has committed to providing identity monitoring services for the next year. But I'm curious about whether or not Equifax and your board have deliberated. Do you think your responsibility ends in 1 year, in 2 years, in 5 years, in 10 years? And if you think it ends at some point, if you try to think about the goodwill and balance sheet impact of all this, how can you explain to an American whose identity might be stolen later because of this breach why your responsibility would ever end? Does it end?
I understand the question, and it extends well beyond a year, Senator. The first step we took was the 5 services we mentioned to the chairman a minute ago, which gets the consumer through 1 year. The ultimate control for security for a consumer is going to the lifetime lock, the ability for a consumer to lock down his or her file, determine who they want to have access for life.
But isn't this, just to interrupt, isn't that about people who might be breached in the future? I'm talking about the 145 million whose data has already been stolen. Does your responsibility end, or what do you think your legal obligations are to them?
I think the combination of the 5 services we're offering combined with the lifetime lock is a good combination of services.
I actually think the innovation of some of the stuff you proposed for the big 3 going forward is quite interesting, but why does any of that 5 really do much for the data that's already been stolen?
Senator, again, the combination of the 5 offerings today plus the lifetime lock we think is the best offering for the consumer.
Okay, I don't think you really answered the question about whether or not your exposure legally ends for the 145 million. Do you know the number of, can you do the 145 million breakdown by state? Not off the top of your head, but do you have the data that we on the committee could have by tomorrow? Just to, you got your 145 million records. Can you parse it by state so each of us understands how many constituents we have?
I believe so. We should have that capability. I'm just hesitating on by tomorrow. But let me take that back. We do have it.
Okay, great. Thank you. It's being reported in the media this morning that you've just received a no-bid contract from the IRS for fraud prevention. Can you explain to the American people, not just as consumers who've been exposed and breached here, but as taxpayers, why in the world should you get a no-bid contract right now?
I'm not sure it was a no-bid. My understanding, I don't profess to have the details there, Senator. It's with the IRS. It's a contract we've had in the past. I think is being renewed.
Okay, we're going to follow up with the IRS as well, but if you could clarify back with us, my team will follow up with you. I have less than a minute left, but I want to open at least the allegations of that Equifax executives engaged in insider trading relating to knowledge of this cyber breach. One of the clearest times and definitions of insider trading occurs when a business executive trades their company's stock because of confidential knowledge that they have gained from their job. I'm sure you can imagine why Americans are very mad about the possibility that this occurred here. While insider trading is going to be discussed a lot more later in this hearing, I wish you could just very quickly give us a timeline of the first steps. When did Equifax first learn of the May 2017 breach, and when did you inform the FBI of that breach?
Thank you. I'll answer as quickly as I can. We notified the FBI, cybersecurity forensic team, and outside global law firm on August 2nd. At that time, all we saw was suspicious activity. We had no indication, as I said in my oral testimony, of a breach at that time. You might recall that the 3 individuals sold stock on August 1st and 2nd. We did not have an indication of a breach until mid to late August.
So you're saying that those 3 executives, Mr. Chairman, I'll stop. You're saying those 3 executives had no knowledge of a breach on August 1st or 2nd?
To the best of my knowledge, they had no knowledge, and they also followed our protocol to have their stock sales cleared through the proper channels, which is our general counsel.
We'll have follow-ups on that, please.